So we go to the last part, and this is the Q&A. I want you to grill me, ask me what I meant about the terms I used. You can ask for my number and let's have dinner later on. But what we can do is actually you can send me the questions right now, and maybe if we can have the lights on. And then, or if you're a bit too shy, you can SMS your questions to the number on the screen, and they will be read aloud. Now, I'm a one-person act, so I'll be the one facilitating my own Q&A in front. If you have a question about design, about what we've discussed, raise your hand, and one of the ushers will come in with the mic. And if you're feeling shy about it, you can send an SMS message via the number in front. That's not my number, so just the questions, please.
I actually have a furniture manufacturer, and I noticed in the earlier slides here, there was something about sophistication, and in many ways, I think, in many ways, I think the Philippines, at least in our industry, has a very handicraft, or the designs are predominantly handcrafted, I guess, and I guess it's a result of there not being enough of an industry in terms of stainless steel and other heavy industries which other countries have. That being the situation that we have, is our design basically going to be that? Are we going to be forever a handicraft design industry? Or when we try working with stainless steel, for example, it doesn't look very sophisticated. It looks sloppy, and so we're not sophisticated. We can come up with really nice designs, but if they're not sophisticated enough, then it doesn't represent a high enough level of product. So I guess there's that issue in this country. So I don't know whether there are many designers in the house, whether they want to react or whether you want to react to that.
I want to react since you're the first one to ask. I have some good news for you. I was giving a trends forecast just 2 weeks ago. One of the trends for 2012 is called primal futurism. Primal futurism. It's a lot of interesting weaves. It's a lot of interesting rough-hewn sides, a lot of agitating leather, agitating material, a lot of things done but not undone. So in that sense, it's something that we're fantastically very good at already. So for 2012, in terms of furniture and accessories, immediately we have an advantage. But using the word advantage, I'll say again, being in that particular scenario of crafts-based, you mean, I would say it's a feature, but not a disadvantage, really, because there are ways to expand on that. I think I have a feeling that, for example, in the next 10 years, we probably will have not so many craftsmen in the world who can produce these things. And guess what? When they come over to Asia, they'll realize the best weavers probably come from the Philippines. I must be right, because when I was in I was in West Elm, I think it was West Elm, North Elm, East Elm, one of those stores. And we had a game with a friend. Everything that we felt like was Filipino, we would pick up and check out. And whoever was right the most times, I don't know, wins dinner during restaurant week. But the idea was we made that game. And eventually what happened was, of course I won because I was a designer. And then I knew which ones were Philippine-made. And I would say in that sense, it's I don't use cards to know this analogy very well. It's playing well with the cards you're dealt with, yeah? So if that's what we have, then we must well be the best at it. But I will also say that there will be other sectors and industries in the Philippines who could develop design in other formats, in other ways, in other media as well. So if you're saying that, is there a way that we can expand? Yes. Coming from a core competency of weaving or craft, going to other media, that's going to be a bit painful. It will take time, but there will be other people to help you, especially with other organizations in the Philippines. It's a good time for me. It's a good time for me to mention also. We have this program. It's called Design Para sa Lahat. It's a small project we have for April. What we plan to do is I had so much fun of visiting all these places in Cebu, Davao, in the Philippines. We're looking at 8 provinces where they have very good crafts in the Philippines. And what I plan to do is visit those 8 provinces, Saturdays and Sundays, tour and look at the different factories and manufacturing sites, And on Monday, have a talk, give a talk to all those makers, all those manufacturers, and say, this is a short-term, medium-term way to make things more interesting. What we're trying to do first is we're going to stop bleeding ugly design. Stop bleeding ugly design and say, you know what? I saw 12 ties here, woven, hand-woven. Guess what? Only 2 really looked good. Was it a matter of maling kulay, ibang aesthetic? Was it the wrong thing? No, I think it's just, let's just stop making the other 8. Let's curate very well, and let's make more of these things so we stop bleeding ugly design and we develop what we already have. I say midterm and short term because the long-term version of it would be to develop more products for other scenarios and other mediums. So that's what it is. So design para sa lahat by April. I hope I'm still in the country by then, April to May. I hope I answered your question. Thank you. Have another question from someone else? Someone on the... Here? Oh, you guys are so shy. Oh, I know your numbers, I realized. I'll skip the personal ones. Are you going to be holding workshops? Do you have a design school? Where is it? Would love to sign up. Oh, she gave a name. Will I be holding workshops? I already did some trends forecasts with SITEM recently. I might be giving a talk in Ateneo about strategic design. We're trying to improve the information plugging because I'm Atenean. We're trying to improve the information design program. Well, I'm trying to help with the information, which is already improved, the information design program of Ateneo by introducing strategic design thinking here in the Philippines. I'll give you an idea of how sophisticated it is in other countries. I was so excited to learn about all these new words, for example, that I picked up while in the United States, for example. Oops, sorry, it's beeping. One of them was some organizations already have the title Chief Design Officer. How cool is that? Chief Design Officer. And then there are words like strategic thinking, design and design management, like an MBA for designers, and strategic design. How do I do this? Okay. I work in government. I feel like a DJ. I work in government, and I would tell you that they are not very aware about the power of design just yet. That's why I have to go there. That's something I want to change. It's not a question. If somebody in the government approached you to design, in particular, information, so we can have a more educated citizenry and a more transparent government, would you be open to collaboration? Yes. And what direction would you take with such a project? What direction would I take? I can answer that during cocktails, please. Depends on which part of government. Are there any, again, politics, are there any political roadblocks that hinder our progress as competitive Pinoy design community? Design training and education. How much money is given into training for education and design? Design promotions and design promotions and trade shows. That's another thing. Design for social inclusion. When I say social inclusion, it's how our roads, our stuff is done for people who are marginalized. Paano ka sasakay? Paano ka sasakay ng jeep kung 85 ka na, tapos yung sasakyan mo mas matangkad pa sa bewang mo? How are you gonna do that? I've seen that all the time, and getting emotional. I see that all the time, and it's sad. 70-year-old women trying to walk up in their skirts, climbing up a jeep. How are you gonna do that? So design is an answer. Design is a solution for that. I suddenly feel weird. How do you reconcile the idea of trends? Of DAT trends? That trends are now veering from plastic and our crafts have better chances if designed better. I'm not sure if I understood it, but how do you reconcile the idea that things are going more plastic than crafty, than woven, than natural? But guess what? The trend for 2012 is primal futurism, like what I said. So it's a continuous. So you mean that design? She's having a conversation with me. So you mean that? I'm gonna call you back later. So you mean that design management for our country can aid or propel our country to meet the standards of globalization? Yes. Have you considered talking? Edric, can you increase the font size later? Have you considered talking to the government on how you will, I'm editing as I talk, on how you will convey the idea of design? The point of the design, the point of the State of Philippine Design talk or address is more about starting that dialogue, just so more people are aware. Guess what? In other countries, there's a position called Chief Design Officer. There's this thing you call design management. There's what you call strategic design. Hey, you know what? Design starts with a capital D. Just to start that dialogue, I think, is the goal of the State of Philippine Design. I hope to see you next year about that. Let's see. I don't know if this, it feels like the same person. You touch on an interesting point. Designers in the Philippines usually establish, but it feels like the same person, right? You touch, maybe it is. I don't know. There's no name. You touched on an interesting point. Designers in the Philippines, usually established designers, it's a different person, tend to design similar products. Sorry. Um, um, Designers in the Philippines, usually established designers, an assertion, tend to design similar products for similar markets. Diversity seems to be a problem. Yes. Philippine fashion, may be a good example of this. Controversial. What are some ways that younger designers can break out of this mold and design unique and desirable products? So that was the point about role models a while ago. My idea was, it's good to get role models for design, but we should not want to design like everyone who's a celebrity in that part of design right now. You have your own styles, you have your own individuality. If you make use of that, it's going to be a more interesting piece. Guess what? I've met in my trips, for example, bloggers who are designing clothing lines that probably only them would wear, but guess people are starting to buy, and that's the good news. In this large cosmos of design and markets, there's going to be someone there who will love the stuff you want. Maybe last two. Okay, there's another one. Oh, okay.
Hi, Brian.
Hi.
So, question is, how do you design education for design?
Wow, how do you
How-
design education for
Yeah,
design?
because I really believe that's where we should create change with educators and parents. How do you inspire kids to want to be a designer in the first place?
Thank you, thank you. I'm a strong believer of getting education from practice. That means interning. Designers should intern more. Sorry na lang, walang bayad for the first few months, pero ganun talaga. Diba? I think that's how it is in the United States, for example. But guess what? The payment happens when you have a nicer resume that says, I've done this. I've actually, as an intern, for example, got to talk to this designer firsthand and got to button her shoes up. That's not so much, doesn't sound like a big deal when you think about it in terms of what she did, but really just the interaction, breathing in the same air these good designers are breathing makes for a difference. So design from practical use, design from practice, education from practice, and at the same time, that's internship, and at the same time, I think people who are already in practice, professionals, should teach. Teachers might also want to be professionals. I strongly believe so. If you're a fantastic designer, please teach. We have several schools here that are very good who need more teachers who are fantastic in design, but might want to teach also. So in fact, I would suggest if you're not a good teacher but you're a fantastic designer, pair up with a good teacher and work as a team. I think that's a good idea.